Welcome, everybody. My name is Suzanne Carowin. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Web2Market, and I'm delighted that you're joining us today. So I think we have a couple more people joining, so just no worries, just hop in. We're recording all of this, so we'll send you and happy to send the slides afterwards as well. So I'm coming at this today from a kind of a multitude of directions. I spent the majority of my career at software companies, then had some time on a lot of times I'm actually helping associations, for-profits, all sorts of different industries globally. And then also coming at it from the standpoint of how can I'm always trying to do work faster. I don't know about you, but I'm always trying to be more efficient, et cetera. And also I think that I've been in digital marketing a long time. And I think that it still remains mysterious. Like there are still pieces of digital marketing that few people really understand really well. And this promise of AI helps us to, I think, really pierce the veil on that and understand it. But it's yet another layer of new technology and subscriptions and things that we have to do. So I'm going to present this today from the standpoint of I'm talking to all organizations, whether you're not-for-profit or for-profit, whether you're doing e-commerce, you're doing association type of work, you're doing heavy websites with a lot of content work, all of it all of this is relevant to it. But again, if if you're trying to get found and then you're trying to actually engage users and or make money, right, which hopefully most of us are trying to do, this is going to be very relevant to you. So the first and foremost, as we dive into this, it's about, and I think this is not any news to anyone. So for years and years and years, we talked about search engine optimization. We talked about, and even that, to be honest, most organizations don't feel bad if you haven't spent a ton of time on keywords or long tail words or all of these ways to get, organized and spend a lot of time on metadata. I can't tell you how many clients I've had over the years, and they still don't have anything filled out in their metadata fields. They still don't have their page titles done. And probably the biggest offender of all of the things in search engine is not having alt tags on images. So you have your images in your website and they're called something like 462.4.ping, right? Or image logo _1.jpg. And so the search engines, you haven't made it, really through step one of being search engine friendly, let alone to put on the alt tag for the image, which would say, let's say if I'm visually impaired and I'm using a screen reader, it would actually read to say, this is the corporate logo of web2market.com, right? Which is how it's supposed to be. So the good news is that AI and nowadays has a lot of tools to actually help us with that. And the reason people didn't do it before is because they were moving websites from one to another. That was a big enough ordeal. They were building them. People don't know. That's another reason, right? And then once it's already in place, to go back and fix it is so incredibly expensive with human to do it that people just let it go and they didn't do it. So only like maybe the really, really big brands did that. So anyway, but with AI now, we're talking about, that was search engine optimization or SEO. And now we have this whole other layer. SEO didn't go away. It's still there. Now we have this new layer called answer engine optimization or AEO. And what that's trying to tell you is now, how are you found? So how are you found before when everybody used Google and we just use it as a verb? We're going to Google you. Or Bing or YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. How does all that happen? But now what happens when people are moving away from using their go-to as Google, and instead they're spending their whole day inside of their favorite AI platform. So whether that's Perplexity or Grok or ChatGPT, or you're inside Gemini or Copilot or Claude, whatever the case might be, people are now utilizing that as their main search mechanism. So therefore, we have now birthed another whole area of digital marketing called AEO, or again, answer engine optimization. Okay, so first and foremost, what we need to understand is that when you had your website before, in the world of SEO, you'll hear people say, well, the search indices or the search index engines will crawl, excuse me, will crawl your website and index your content. And so the search engine was looking for, again, page title, your meta description of your page, right? It's going through your content. It's prioritizing hyperlinks. It's looking at those alt tags. So it's machine reading kind of or indexing what's there on the page. And so you would do things there to optimize it. AI now sees it very differently. It reads the content. It doesn't crawl it. It's just a completely different way that it goes to understand what's on your website. So now we have to say, yikes. Now we have a whole different way to view, framework, let's call it, or way to view your site to say, can AI see my site, right? Can it see it? Can it read it? The way that it's looking now for context, it has a completely different structured way it expects to understand your site to consume it, all right? And so it will go ahead and build this model without you being present, and it will answer questions, of course, and summarize for you. So the question is, if I go into Gemini, if I go into Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever, and by the way, each one of those AI platforms is nuanced, right? And while we're not going to talk about it in this webinar, we have other webinars. We're happy to do another one to talk about the differences of each of these platforms. The big differences that you should always ask is, where is the data coming from? Who populated the large language model, right? Where is it coming from? Do you trust that source? How often is that refreshed, et cetera? And all those platforms have a little bit of a different nuance to it. But nonetheless, hopefully we've all used one of these tools by now. And so it's going to, again, answer the user without you being there. Okay, so much like Google, you needed to be in those search rankings for people to visit your site. This is even more so now as the AI platform goes to consume and understand your site. It's trying to make sense of where you fit kind of in the world and how it can absorb your data and give that back to people who are hopefully searching for you. So you want to be like, hey, I'm the expert on this area. We want you to come to our site to buy the product, et cetera. So again, all those things are out there, but remember that your competitors are out there too. So we're still no different back in the SEO world. We now have to be competitive on a whole new area in answer engine optimization. Okay, the practical side of you should be like, how much does this cost? So this again gets into where we also need to, well, maybe those of us on the phone or on the site here and on the webinar are in the marketing, sales, advertising, e-commerce product ownership world. You also have that idea over there on your finance side, and then I'll just rip the Band-Aid and say that this is always, again, more money. We're in the world now of subscriptions. It's additional subscriptions to be in these things for many of them. And also, again, we're moving into a different type of payment plan in the world of AI, which is now based on tokens. So if you've used any software, you'll see that it's a very common thing it's based on tokens, and it's kind of throughput, right, if you will. So it's almost like your water meter, your electric meter, it's based on usage. And so it's no longer these flat fee kind of things per month. It might be a subscription plus tokens. So just a couple of differences here in the different worlds we're in as we move into the world of AI. So LLM, I mentioned that one, large language model. That's actually what the AI platform is basing its content on, right? So at some point, the large language model has been built, and we don't know, that's the secret sauce of, Anthropic that makes Claude, or Microsoft, has Copilot. You would think Microsoft, they've been around for 30 years. They've got a lot of data. Google's been around for close to that. They've got all those years of data, right? So you've got this database of stuff, this large language model, and then your site itself can be its own large language model, right? So all of the world within your site, whether it's products and descriptions or content or PDFs or all the information that you have, that can be considered like your container of your data. So when the AI platform comes out and it has its large language model, and it's coming there to ingest your site to understand it, and it's looking at your website, again, it's going to ingest it and it's going to read it. Okay, and we were talking about that. So it moves this 5 stages, right, where it strips out all this stuff. It tries to chunk and embed the content in there, and it turns it into vectors. So it turns it into math representation of meaning, and it vectorizes your content. Okay, so it's got this structured way that it understands your website and those pieces that you're providing access to it from a public standpoint. And then it's trying to say, okay, as it's vectorized it, it's put it into its large language model. As you, the user, ask a question, it's bumping up. And again, all of AI, while it seems magical, it's all based on probability, right? So it just has that much data, because as unique as we all think we are individually as humans, as unique as we are, if you watch enough human activity over and over and over, there's patterns that emerge. And so all AI is doing is using probabilistic reasoning and logic to basically anticipate and to forecast what it is that you're actually trying to get to in terms of information. And it's saying probabilistically, if you're looking for, let's say, I don't know, a new type of running shoe, the probability is that you're then going to also want to know, right, something about the, let's say, the size of it, the width of it, the traction it has, the material of it. So it's probabilistically putting that information together, which means that in order for you to get found, you need to be able to feed your data into that large language model in a way that it will understand. And so when it's vectorized this and someone's asking a question, your information is looked to as a go-to to say, this is the probability is that the information that you provide is going to be valuable to this individual based on their query. So what it then does is it ingests your data, and then it's going to synthesize and basically put a summary together, and then it's going to hold that in its arsenal, if you will, right? So the next time somebody asks a question, then it's going to say, okay, great, we have this source. And of course, AI, the other piece of it, it's this constant feedback loop. So it's every time you interact with it, it's storing that information and getting, quote unquote, smarter and smarter. It's not really smarter, it's just getting more instances, right? More observations. And so the hypothesis that, that AI is using about what you're actually trying to get to, it's getting to be more and more accurate. And so that's how we need to kind of think of it. Okay, so AI platforms read the meaning. So what does this actually then mean to you? So these are 2 different rules. So it's really looking now from a standpoint of prose and content summary, etc. So it's a little bit different. If you were writing before for keywords, if you were writing for search terms on your actual website copy, that world's not going to work anymore. Now you've got to write super clear prose, which means paragraph kind of form, if you will, and be able to see that. So let me stop for a second and just even say, maybe you're like, hey, I wonder if I even have this. So in the world of the AI world, you need this additional file. So many people are familiar with a file called the robots.txt file. And robots.txt sits in your kind of root directory in your server, and it will tell you what it allows the search engine, again, bots out there to index or not. So you might say like, hey, I don't want it to index certain pages of my site. I want to hide it from the search engines. So in the world of now AI, you need this additional page. So you've got robots.txt. You're going to update that and say, hey, it's okay now for the AI bots to come in and look at us, look at the site. But there's an additional file called the llms.txt file that you need to now have as well. And that has a very specific format, and you can go to a gazillion sources, just put it into Google or put it into one of your AI tools and say, how do I test to see if I have an llms.txt file? Unless somebody created for you, you don't have one. But again, they're not difficult to create. You can create them yourself. or you can get somebody like me to create them for you, but you can create that. And then the difficult part half the time is finding out who's got the right accessibility into your server to get it to where it needs to sit. But once you've got that, then that's helping you to get to where you need to be. You've got to have that in order to be found. Okay. But there's some other things there as well, which is you might say, oh my goodness, we have, decades at this point worth of content. What are we going to do? We can't rewrite all of this. And luckily in today's world, there's tools to help you do that. So one of the things you can do is called completely mirroring your site. So for about $2,500, $3,000, somewhere between $2,500 and $5,000, depends how big your site is, you can get a complete AI will do it. It'll completely mirror your site and build it. You won't even see it. It's just kind of hanging out there, and it just rewrites all of your content into structured form that an AI platform, the LLMS, will understand and be able to ingest. Okay, so just hang that out there. That again, yes, it's more money, but it's a one-time thing, and you just keep going with the site that you've already got. But that's how you need to optimize it. So now we have SEO optimization and we have the AEO optimization. The easiest way to do it, well, is to throw some money at it, like I said, and just to have one site that's optimized for search engine optimization, because that's still not going away, right? And then we have one site that's optimized for AEO, okay? Because they're completely different structures in how you do that. So all the product sites, like I said, whether you're running Shopify or you're on WordPress or using, a big content management system, etc., AI is going through there and it's trying to understand and map your catalog and your courses and all, like I said, your PDFs, all those type things, so you can actually, again, vectorize that content and do that. And I mention that because a lot of times I think that people think, oh, because it's Shopify, it just automatically is going to do this. And it's not really the case, right? And so, or it's just automatically going to work. So I bring this out because a lot of times, if you're only doing e-commerce, you think about this all day long. But many of us have an organization that has a website, has a bunch of content, and then we sell additional things like membership, or we sell subscriptions, or we sell professional education, or we sell training courses. All of those things, those are separate, like the content management system data and the product system or your learning management system, they have different database structures. So we need to make sure that the AI can find all those things appropriately, right? And so, and pull it into and ingest it. And I bring that up because it's just a different way to start thinking about your site. And ideally, you want to have a tool. Ideally, you'd want to say, and this is why AI is so nice, is again, if maybe you've got multiple different sites, you're a multinational, you've got different sites in different languages, you have different sites in the product site. Again, there's a site over here for the training site. Like think of a university. There's all these sites that are still part of, the Ohio State University, but there's the business school, there's the medical school, the law school. They have tons and tons and tons of sites. Wouldn't it be great to have an actual AI tool that overlays all of that? And you can actually ask the question you want to say, like, hi, I want to have a career as a doctoral student long-term, and I'm a freshman now. Showcase the whole thing. What does the entire journey look like for me with classes I need to do, etc.? And AI can answer those complex questions really easily, because as long as it can ingest the data. So all of this, again, is to say that you need to make sure and think through the different components of your site, not just assume that they're going to get ingested. Each one has a little bit of a different flavor to it, but knowing that you can do it. Okay. So again, a couple ways we're saying, just as we're saying. So first, check check what's out there, see if you've got the LLMS file, make sure it runs. You can use free tools. There's, like I said, there's a lot of check your LLMS kind of thing. And, by the way, you should do that anyway, periodically, and do a site audit. SEMrush is a go-to for agencies. They did just get bought out by Adobe, I believe, but awesome tool, a lot of free tools out there as well, a lot of ways to audit. Secondly is the one I just talked about, is mirroring that site, right? So get that structured piece of it, pay us to mirror your site, get someone to do that for you. You're not going to be able to do it yourself. You need probably a agency like mine to do that. And the third way, another way to do it that we'll get into in just a second, is talking about getting actually found within the marketplace, if you will, of AI. So let's talk about that one for a second. So if you've been in ChatGPT, let's talk about that. That's usually the popular one. There's a whole section called Explore GPTs, okay? And so you can look in there, and that's generative pre-trained transponders is what GPT stands for. So you can go in there and you'll see very popular brands out there. You'll see like the Weather Channel. It says the Weather Channel, or it says like weather information GPT. And you click on that and it'll show you how many people have used it, what it's about, what the GPT is going to do for you. It'll tell you who hopefully made it, etc. And then you can just start, instead of just being in the generic ChatGPT, you can narrow in and just start talking to the Weather GPT. So now what's happened is you're talking to a specialist, okay? And so now all the interaction I'm having is going to be able to go a deep dive, let's say on weather, okay? So those GPTs are made for very specific purposes. So maybe like you're an expert you're a coach and you're an expert at flag football. You could make your own flag football GPT and put all of your know-how into it, or a lot of your know-how into it, and become a real resource out to humanity about, let's say, flag football, okay? And you could put your own brand on it. You could be like, oh, I'm Coach Brown or whatever, and launch it out into the world, into the overall marketplace. So if you've never noticed that in ChatGPT, you can explore that today. Now, it doesn't cost you anything to use these other GPTs out there. But if you yourself, if like you're an association, or like, again, you want to use it for lead generation and you want to be like the place on the market for this particular product that you put out there, you might want to build your own GPT, and you can do that. Absolutely. You can do it today. Or like agencies like mine can build it for you. But you do have to have a paid subscription, right? You're going to have a paid subscription to actually build your own GPT. And that's where some of that comes into effect. Now in ChatGPT, it's called GPTs. In Gemini, they're called gems. Same concept. You can build your own gem, launch it into the world of the Gemini marketplace, and allow people to use that. In Claude, same concept. You can build your own. They're called artifacts. Okay, so different platforms, again, have different pieces that they do. But the idea there is you can imbue your own information in there and put your brand out there. And so again, some organizations use it for lead generation. Like if you're the, National Association of, architects and masons or something, and you really want to preserve your footprint in the market and what you do, and you're like the place, maybe you want to create your own GPT, one, just for brand awareness, two, again, to get found, right? Three, to oftentimes to do lead generation or show the value of, let's say, your membership, or show your value of the subscription. So you're going to put so much of your information into the GPT, and then you have to market that and publish that. But then you leave people a little bit wanting, so that they say, oh, now I need to actually go and buy your product, subscribe, whatever the case might be, to do that. But that's kind of what I would consider a whole new way that people are trying to get found and get awareness for their brand within the overall world of AI. As a side note, within the overall world of digital marketing and different channels, I'd say that what the latest thing that we're seeing a lot of, we're doing a lot of work on, is really getting those spots in streaming TV. So if you haven't looked at stuff like that, or thought about, as people, again, move off of kind of cable or regular channels and they're going to streaming services like YouTube TV or Sling or what have you, getting in front of those particular people is becoming something that is, one, pretty low cost to do, it's economical, and two, people are really starting to move to that, off of, like, again, spending all their money on Google AdWords or Meta, right? So it's just getting more and more and more and more things. Like if you're on the finance side, you're going, it's yet another subscription. And yes, it's yet another subscription. So it's looking at how those things, and you can advertise everywhere now. So it's just getting more and more and more fractured and isolated. So finding out where your target market is and really getting good at interacting with them is even more critical. That's like, we cannot skip that step anymore and just kind of, spray and pray. The good thing about AI is those days can be over. The bad part about AI is you probably need a little extra firepower of knowing how, or somebody who knows how to do it really well for you, or else you'll just spend a bunch of money and you're not going to get the results. I'll stop there and just make one note. We have a lot of clients who have been in, let's say, the e-commerce or the website business for, 20 plus years. And they're complaining that they're not seeing the revenue like they used to, right? And they're wondering, why is that? And this is why it's not the same. So a lot of them have stopped spending money on advertising because they had a known brand, but now we're in this whole other global marketplace with AI and bots and all these things happening. Same type of thing, the sites, if you have not invested in a long time in security and making sure that all of your stuff on your website is up to date. I mean, the amount of attacks, the amount of cybersecurity work that we do to fend off attacks on websites and e-commerce sites, et cetera, it's unbelievable, right? And so we just need to, again, keep opening that budget up. I know everybody's like, what gets to go? But that's the hard part, right? That's the challenge we're all in today. Okay, so again, just giving you an example. So the robots.txt, right, we talked about for the AI era. I'm just showing you on the screen. If you're just listening, look up for a sec. And this is the llms.txt. So this is what it looks like, right? So it gives you this chunked out way, and there's a specific way that you put this in here. And so again, there's a bunch of places that can do that for you. We can do it for you, but you can also create the file yourself if you'd so like, and just get it into the right spot on the website. Okay, this is the second one we talked about, and get a little bit more detail of mirroring that site and having it again auto built for you. So you've got an AI readable mirror. Like I was telling you, it's a one-time investment, but the nice part about it is it just stays up to date, right? So it's constant. So what it's doing is it's like a twin. So you have your regular site that you've already invested in, whether it's your e-commerce or content management system site, you've got all that there. And this site out here is just a constant readable mirror that's ingesting this and transforming it into AI readable structured format that the AI platforms need. So as you add more here, this just automatically gets updated. So like I said, that's, to me, the nicest. That's what we do with all of our clients. It's the nicest way to do it. I don't have to have anybody on my staff change what they're doing. I don't have to learn anything new. We just do a one-time investment. You keep doing what you're doing and let this AI readable mirror kind of update it. All right. And then we were talking about this is a little bit more on the chat GPT or the custom GPT piece of it, right? About how you can do that. So all of them more or less work the same. You say, I want to name my GPT. I want to give it an image. I want to give it like an icon or a look and feel to it. I want to upload documents to it. I want to put in instructions for it. And then I want to say how often it should work and what else should it do. So you can actually then, what do I mean by that? So you can do things like this. So let's say that I wanted to create my own, an example I give all the time is I wanted to create my own GPT. And again, I could just use it for my own purposes, right? I don't have to publish it out to the world. I could just create this and just use it internally. And I should note that for my own organization's efficiency. So for example, internally, I have built my own GPT for doing proposals, right? So how did I do it? I created one. It's called, my proposal maker. I put a little cute dog on there, right? And then what I did is I fed it. I literally uploaded documents, PDFs, Excel spreadsheets, images. Like that's what's great about AI. You can just take all this stuff and shove it in there, uploaded all of it, and say, listen, the next time, here's roughly like a best practices proposal. And so next time, and I'm going to give it instructions to say, in subsequent weeks, I'm going to come to you and I want to feed you in prospect name, objective of the project, where, not even where they're located, like you go find it, AI, you figure it out. What we want to get done with it, the price that we're quoting, etc. And I give it like bare bones instructions. And I say, I'm going to give you that. And then you do your AI thing and come back with a finished, polished document in my look and feel that's structured appropriately, right? Given all the details and criteria that I gave you. And I want you to produce all that. And at the end of it, I have a downloadable PDF that it's ready to go, that I can just pop out and send to the prospect. On top of that, I can actually build in hooks now. So that's my GPT. Like, that's a real GPT that we built. And you can build these internal ones, and we can do them for you for all sorts of things that you want to do. The real magic, I think that's great too, because that's a huge saver. But the real magic to me is when you can take that and then you can actually connect it to other actions, right? So I could say in my directions, I want to produce that PDF. Then I want to actually have it automatically export out, to another system. And I want it then emailed, logged into my CRM system, right? Logged into a task management system, put on my, Trello board or whatever. And then I want to be able to track it and have automatic emails that go out to make sure that I follow up on day 3, 5, 7, etc. Right? And then automatically I could connect it out to say automatically set up a Zoom, automatic, all that interactivity between all of these tool sets. We're paying for all the subscriptions, right? We might as well connect them all. And so now what you're seeing is, I think, in the consultancy world, and again, most people don't know how to do this themselves, but you can do it. It's possible. You can connect all these disparate systems together. And by the way, if you're running like a Microsoft, you're actually running Microsoft 365 and you've got all of it, they have all sorts of apps in there to be able to do some of these amazing things to connect them together. Again, most people don't really know how to connect them all together, but that's okay, because there's people like us who do. So, but it's possible. That's the bottom line. You need to know it's possible, and you can set up your flow now, workflow internally, to be a lot more efficient and effective. Okay, so back to, again, just looking at it, our custom GPT. After I do all that, I can, again, use it for my own internal purposes. And by the way, I could take that GPT that I created, like let's say I made it in Microsoft Copilot, and I can embed it, let's say, into my Teams channel. So now all of my other Teams people can utilize it as well, right? So you see that all the time. Like probably the go-to example is a company wants to take all their HR employee handbook stuff and put it into their overall Slack channel or Teams channel that everyone shares. That's a common. And so instead of me having to kind of look up, how much time off do I get after I reach year 5, instead of having to read through the employee handbook or whatnot, or read about FMLA and try to figure out, what does maternity or paternity leave look like, I can just chat to my, I can just chat to the GPT and ask it, right? And it'll just give me back the answer. So that you see a lot of organizations moving to that. A very typical thing is to first kind of AI-size their HR manuals and things like those routine questions on travel manuals, travel policies, build out a little GPT just for travel. See that one all the time. So that's kind of that world of building it yourself. And again, like I was saying, you can do it for internal efficiency purposes. You can also do it. So I could take that same thing and I say, oh, I want to publish it out to the marketplace of the world. And that way people can see my brand, get to know us, interact with us, right? Set me up to get them to my website for subscriptions, products, whatever the case might be, events, conferences, and more. All right. So I do want to introduce a tool that we have. It's called brng.ai. I like it because it kind of does what we're talking about. And brng.ai is available now. It's at brng.ai. But what it does is it's a chatbot that sits there. But most people, we hate all of the chatbots because they're not very effective. we always try to. I always feel like on a side note, I always feel like we try to put technology sometimes into the places I think it should least be, like customer service, right? And we try to do that, and then we try to put it onto the website to make it helpful, and it's not helpful because there is no chat agent there, and it just repeats it. What brng.ai does is it allows you to have natural language. It sits on your website, super easy to install. It's just like installing, put a little piece of snippet code up in the header tag of your website like you do for many other products like Google Analytics, etc. And it gives you a little natural language box. But what it does is it gets trained on your site and your site only. Okay. So as soon as we get people here through all the things we just talked about, I go to my brng.ai and I basically say, put in my question for it to bring it to me. Right. So I don't want to go and, for decades, I've developed websites. We only had navigation and keyword search. And navigation, you're still guessing how somebody else organized the content, where it lives. And then the second piece is keyword search. Unless you really have the money, most of the keyword search, I think we can all just say, are they're not the greatest, right? They leave a lot to be desired. So Bring gets trained on your whole site, and that again is all the pieces we just talked about, whether it's the product side for Shopify, whether it's the content side, however you have that, all your components of your site, it gets trained on it, and then I can just ask Bring to bring me the content I want. So I might go back to my university example and I say, hey, I am a freshman, map out, and I want to leave with a degree in finance, right? And a minor in hospitality management. So outline to me all the things that I need to do and what are the clubs that I should be in? Like, how do I walk out of here getting the most out of my education and having like a great resume? Give me all this stuff. And therefore, it can look across all this and it comes back again in summary types of language. Of course, it's getting now better and better. So as you're using it more so, now people are like, oh, I'm now just using this as the search engine for the site, which makes sense. What's good for you, and that's great for the user. We love that because it goes across. Again, one of the problems always with keyword searches is a lot of times they're not pervasive. So it's looking at one section of the site, but you've got content over in a blog, right? Or you've got content over on landing pages, or you've got, like we said, all these different pieces. So Bring allows that to be pervasive across everything. But the real beauty of it is you, the people that own the website, that work in that organization, you actually get to see what they've typed in for their query. So you get that insight. Now for a marketer, that insight is gold, because you're sitting there saying, wow, they came in and they're looking for products that either I don't have. So you can see product gaps or service gaps that people think you have, but you don't have. You can also say, like, there's listen, unless I'm wrong, you call me later and tell me. I've never worked with a client or an organization that does not have an argument over what people think is the most popular and how content should be organized on the website, right? Everybody has an opinion on it. Everybody says, no, this is how it should be organized. This is what should go on the homepage, whatever. And this actually tells you what people actually are searching for, the terms they're using, right? How often, and you can see their whole stepping through what that looks like. So that makes it very easy now to change my merchandising, to be able to say, oh, look, we need to write. Some people keep talking about this topic. Maybe it's like a good, it's also like a good way to see what trends are out there that maybe you haven't broached yet, you haven't responded to. And so people are like, wow, we need to get on this. For example, there was a worldwide outage about a week ago of cPanel. Tens of millions of websites use cPanel. And we could see that people were coming to our site asking about cPanel. And so we were like, wow, we need to hurry up and get out some blog, and some newsletters, et cetera, about this to allay any fears people have, but to also to understand it. So it becomes a really nice early warning detector tool, is how I would put that, to make it easy to understand what users are actually doing. Okay. So here's what it actually looks like. So you can see that I've put my little chat there. So if you're just listening to me, look up for a sec. You can see that I've got my chat, and then I'm going to come back and it's going to give me again in AI fashion, instead of just a bunch of links that I get back from, let's say, a keyword search, I can actually get this nice summary, right? That's going to give me actually helpful stuff and it continue to engage me. So to say, like, is that what you wanted? Or like, here's other, like people like you also were asking these kinds of questions. So maybe you actually also want to continue on with that chat with it. And again, you can show you all the products on it, right? You can have all these things and right here, drop to basket. You're like, bam, that's exactly the product that I needed. Let me just go ahead and purchase it right from here. And again, I can give it thumbs up, thumbs down. And again, I'm training my AI like I do in all of them about how it's there to please me. Okay. And so again, this brng.ai tool works on any platform. You can customize it and you can decide you want longer answers, you want really short answers, you want to show the products first. All of that is just easy to configurable. But the main thing is it makes your site sticky, right? And it makes it dependable. So once you get people to your site, now that you can be found through your LLMS text or your chat GPT, your GPT that you created or your mirrored site, once they get there, you can keep them there and you can create a relationship with them. So one more time, the other part that I love about this, here I am, I'm interacting with Bring, I'm telling it what to bring me. I am then getting information back. It will also show you, by the way, how this converts into checked out baskets. So if I'm actually buying something, you can see how Bring was part of that sale process and the amount of value. But I can also, probably even more importantly, well, revenue in the door is important, is the most important. But I can actually also hook this into my abandoned cart system to say, hey, Peep, you were on our site asking about these things and you didn't drop anything to basket, you didn't pick anything, you didn't buy it. So why don't we now, again, send that over to you without freaking you out, but in a nice, respectful way, saying, here, don't forget, this is the stuff that you were searching for. We know you're interested and we can be the provider of choice. Okay. So you can actually see what here's a good screenshot. You can actually see what people are the questions, and you can see the follow-ups that they had. And you can see, again, you get all sorts of data. You get IP addresses, you get, again, times, all those things. And you can, again, plug this into the rest of your MarTech stack too, which I also love. So if you wanted to tie this in with a bunch of other tools so you get all your telemetry, you can absolutely do that as well. Okay. And so I can see all of my threads and all of the questions that were in there again. All right. So one example we have a great client named Jane's Cake and Baking Supply. I like to push them. So if you have anything to do with baking or cooking, they've got an awesome online store that they built in Shopify with their catalog, but more so they got a lot of knowledge in there. So the owner, Tom, he has a lot of knowledge. So we've been getting him to get that knowledge into his blogs and recipes and newsletters, etc. And then we're having Bring get trained up on that so that it's actually giving that added value. So it's not just the products that it's pushing back, it's also Tom's know-how. That makes for a really authentic brand that Tom can then really get behind and sets them apart. Because the other part of this whole world of all these sites that are great and everything can be beautiful now because it's AI driven and it's very quick to make. It's not a fortune like it used to be, which is great. But you also are now competing with everybody else in the world. And I think what's coming out is that people are starting to actually look for authenticity. They're starting to be like, if we can all compete on the same level, like what group is pushing this? Like, where is it coming from? Who are we paying? What are we paying? Is it ethical, right? All those kinds of things are out there. So, I think the authenticity, and we're going to end up returning to being actually more in person because it's hard to believe anything. So the more that you can make it authentic online, the more real it is and people trust, right? Our trust has been incredibly damaged and broken, I think, through all this AI. It's the exploitation that's happened, et cetera, and continues to happen and will continue to happen. So I think that we're going to have to find a way to actually establish ourselves and establish that trust factor online through AI. All right, so as we wrap up, I like to always leave people with some realistic things about what you can do, like what does it cost? What are 5 things you can do today that you can budget for and kind of what that looks like. So I'm giving you kind of 5 things here. These are kind of like your idealistic stuff. So again, just reiterate, if you don't have your LLMS text file, get it done. And so again, if you need help, You can call me, you can call a bunch of people, but you know, you can do it yourself too. Okay, that's one thing, but you got to have that. That's kind of like your starting block. You must have that. Secondly, if you have a ton of content, tons of products, a lot of SKUs, all this stuff, and you don't want to have to update it, and you haven't put in all your meta tags and, you know, and all your alt tags, etc., think about getting an LLM ready mirror site. Again, we do that all the time. So that's something you can get done, and that can just live out there, and you're doing that. And again, the prices, you know, I'm giving you some range. I'm giving you a budget range. And again, it varies depending on, again, the size and complexity, but just an option. Side note, there are tools out there. We resell one from a company that we work with that if you haven't done all of your alt tags, you know, we can run it through and it will update everything for you, which is, again, great because you need that. Third one, we talked about getting a company like mine to build you a custom GPT, the gem, the artifact, whatever you want to call it, on your platform. Those things, again, can range in price, right? And then you're going to have your AI subscription that is going to support that to be published out into the world, or you can do it internally. And again, but you're going to be on some sort of paid subscription plan. Brng.ai, I told you it's about $200 to $500 a month, so it's pretty economical. Again, depends on a little bit on the complexity and what we're training it on, but that's another option for you. And then I would say, make sure you're thinking about putting some money into your budget. I've just seen everything slashed to pieces, and I get it, but aside even from AI, and like this isn't going away, so you need to be found. Even without that, like I said, I can't emphasize enough. Look at your cybersecurity insurance policy. Make sure you're covered in that, right? Make sure you've got enough protection for nowadays for the attacks that we're under, and also make sure that you're actually putting some set aside money, because accessibility is changing. They're updating kind of those regulations. There's a big new set of regulations that's going to come into effect, and you need to have that stuff, and you're not immune if you're an association. I feel like associations for years have ignored the accessibility things for digital, but we've had many clients who are, you know, they've come to us because they're like, can you update our website, because we've been found to be not in compliance with the American Disabilities Act. So accessibility is another one. And then the third one I put out there is make sure you're good with your cookie consent rule. So cookie consent is usually falling under the state level, state privacy policies. We're up to about 30 states that now have them. And so if you sell, it's not where you're domiciled, the company, it's where that end user is buying your product. So unless you're like, so I think right now, like if you're selling to Alaska, no problem, no privacy policy in place. But if you're selling to Massachusetts, to somebody who lives in Illinois, to New York, to California, and that's where they live, and you don't have a cookie consent policy in place, you know, that could be an issue. And when times get tight, lawyers get creative. So we're seeing people get kind of these notices and getting hit up for the fines for that. So do yourself a favor and take care of some of those pieces. And again, this is something where I just tie it all the way back, because with AI now, these types of, let's just take attorneys. Attorneys can get a firm and just go out and just start crawling, you know, looking through the whole websites for all these organizations and finding the ones that don't have these things, and then starting to go after them for money, right? So it's pretty easy to do. So you got to be on your game. So those are kind of the things that I think there are 5 things that you can budget for, as we talked about AEO and AI today. Again, I'm so happy to have you join me. Please visit our website. You can get to me at info@web2market.com. And we hope to be of assistance. With that, have a great weekend.